Hello, I'm Bob Saint again with the Grand County Wilderness Group. This is the second part of the Wilderness Regulations video series. This video will cover wilderness use permits for overnight and organized groups in the Indian Peaks Wilderness. Remember, this permit system regulates the use of the Indian Peaks Wilderness, which is one of the most effective ways we have to preserve wilderness characteristics and the user's wilderness experience. A $5 permit per group is required for overnight camping in the Indian Peaks Wilderness between June 1st and September 15th. The fee covers the group for the planned trip. One permit is good for groups of up to 12 people, heartbeats, and up to 14 nights. Note that all the rules for camping apply year-round, including camping in the numbered designated sites at Caribou Lake and Crater Lake. A day hike permit is required year-round for all organized groups entering the wilderness at no cost. Permits can be obtained by mail or in person from the Boulder Ranger District Office and the Sulphur Ranger District Office in Granby. A few permits are available at Ace Hardware in Nederland. Permits can also be obtained at the Monarch Cabin and Junco Cabin when they are staffed by Grand County Wilderness Group volunteers. If you are stationed at the Monarch Cabin or Junco Cabin, be sure and ask backpackers and organized groups if they already have obtained a wilderness use permit. If they have, thank them and wish them a safe and enjoyable trip. If they have not obtained a permit, explain to them that a permit is required and offer to help them obtain a permit. Explain to them that the purpose of the wilderness use permit is to protect the resource and assure that wilderness characteristics, including solitude and the primitive nature of wilderness, are maintained. If they refuse to obtain a permit, remember that you are a volunteer and don't have the authority to force them to get a permit, but remind them that it is likely that a wilderness ranger will be patrolling the area and will give citations to campers and organized groups without permits. Using your best judgment, calling a wilderness ranger or the Granby office on the radio may be warranted. Taking a photo of the vehicle license plates may be helpful. The first step is to have the party leader complete the Indian Peaks Wilderness Permit application form. There will be new forms available at the cabins this year. The party leader needs to determine which backcountry zone they want to camp. A map showing the backcountry zones is at the cabin. There is also a map showing the backcountry zones on the Indian Peak Wilderness Regulations brochure. There is a limit to the number of groups allowed per camp per zone, and only one large group, which is 8 to 12 heartbeats, is allowed per zone per night. Except for Crater Lake and Caribou Lake on the west side, and Diamond Lake and Jasper Lake on the east side, groups can camp anywhere within the zone as long as it is at least 100 feet from lakes, streams, or developed trails. For Crater Lake and Caribou Lake, there are designated numbered sites on a map that you give them. Also, the trailhead they enter the Indian Peaks Wilderness and the trailhead they exit should be entered on the form. The numbers for each of the trailheads is listed on the application form. Once they have chosen their backcountry zone, you must verify the availability. During regular business hours, Monday through Friday at the Monarch Cabin, call the Granby office on the landline telephone at 887-4100. On weekends, there should be a spreadsheet available at the Monarch Cabin that shows the number of permits issued per zone on a given date. The total number of groups allowed per zone is listed in the first column with the zone name. If the zone is full for a given date, it should be filled in red and no more permits should be issued for that zone. Note that only one large group is allowed per zone per day. If you are at the Junco cabin, you need to call the Monarch cabin on the radio to check the availability of the zone requested. If you can't verify the availability of the zone, then you shouldn't issue a permit. If the requested zone is full, you can suggest a nearby zone that is not full. For example, the Crater Lake Backcountry Zone is often filled on weekends, but the Cascade Creek Backcountry Zone is usually not filled. For day use organized group permits, only one organized group per day per zone is allowed. When it is determined that the backcountry zone is available and the group leader has completed the application form, then you can collect the $5 fee for overnight camping permits and complete the actual wilderness backcountry permit. Note that the money goes directly to the Forest Service, so checks should be made out to the USDA Forest Service and placed in the envelope marked Forest Service in the cash box. The completed application form should be put in the envelope with the money. Completing the permit is mostly self-explanatory, but be sure that it is completely filled out, including issuing office, please check one box, check SDR, which stands for Sulphur Ranger District. BZ map received initial. This is for you to initial that you gave the party leader the backcountry zone map or the IPW brochure. Leader signature. Before the party leader signs the permit, make sure they read and understand the Indian Peaks Wilderness Regulations and the Leave No Trace Outdoor Ethics information on the reverse side of the permit. The regulations are outlined in part 1 of this video series. The ethics sections are guidelines to enable the group to have a safe and enjoyable experience and to protect and preserve the wilderness experience for the group as well as those that come after them. The ones to emphasize are travel and camp on durable surfaces, dispose of waste properly. Note that we can sell them cat hole trowels for $5. This is Grand County Wilderness Group money. Human waste is a big issue in the heavily used areas. Minimize campfire impacts and respect wildlife. I will only camp in designated campsites, initial if relevant. This is for the party leader to signify that you have given him the map showing the location of the numbered campsites if they are camping at Crater Lake or Caribou Lake. Note that the camping site is not assigned, but they must camp in one of the unoccupied numbered sites. The detachable tab at the bottom of the form should be placed on the vehicle dashboard. If there is more than one vehicle, there are additional tabs available in the cash box with the application forms and money envelope. This permit tab overrides the need to display an ANRA pass between the time that the hikers start on the hike and the day they leave the trailhead. This completes the process of issuing the wilderness use permits. Thank them and wish them a safe and enjoyable trip. Be sure that the zone availability spreadsheet is updated and given back to the Forest Service office in Granby on Monday morning.